I'm going to start with 2 strands, although I could just take 4. I could take the 4, but I want to create a little bit more definition in what I'm about to do. So I'm going to twist these 2 together. I'm going to pick up 1 lock as I twist, and now I'm picking up another one. So now I have 4 strands, but I'm using them as 2. So I could just continue to twist these around all the way down. But in this, it's very hard to see the definition of the 2-strand twist to me. It's there, but it's not what I'm going for. So I'm going to go back a little bit from the point at which I had just the 4 strands, treating them as 2. And I'm going to start to twist these around, like just twist them. And then I'm going to continue this 2-strand twist. I'm going to keep twisting and creating a 2-strand twist. This creates kind of a chain look to me. I'm not sure if this is called anything, but I've just noticed I like the definition in the twist when I do that. So I'm going to keep going. I'm twisting the locks, individual locks, and then twisting those 4 locks around one another. So it's a little bit more time consuming, but I think the difference that it makes is worth it. That twist looks a little bit more defined and interesting to me than the original one I did. So now I'm going to take a small rubber band and twist it at the bottom. I twist tight enough that I twist the rubber band enough times that it keeps everything still, but not as tight as it possibly can go, because trust me, when it's time to take it out, you don't want to deal with a rubber band that is so tightly embedded into your locks. I'm going to take these 4 here because they're very obvious, and I think that they will flow together very easily. So I actually will start up here. And I just see a little bit of smoothing that I want to do. So I'm just going to do that with water before I begin, which you might not be able to see on the camera, but I can see. And again, because this is a style that I definitely am going to keep for days, I'd rather start frizz-free than continue to, then just style it as is. I want to give it room, let it start perfectly, and then let it frizz up over the days. Okay, so here I go. I'm taking 2, and I'm going to add 1 lock as I twist around, add another lock, and now I'm going to start twisting like this.
Look, there are so many pieces that make up what's inside. Some I've yet to discover.
Let me show you something. So these 4 I think also would go perfectly together, but I have 2 locks that are pretty short and then 2 locks that are pretty long. So I'm going to split that and put 1 long, 1 short together so that that'll even itself out by the end of the twist. So now I've reached the end of the 2 short locks, and now I'm only left with 2 long locks, which made that work out really well. That's clearly going to change the way the twist looks at the very end. However, that's likely going to be hidden in the idea that I have for how this style will be completed. So this can clearly be done with more than 4 locks, but and definitely for most people who have many, many locks, this might be too tedious. But again, my locks are pretty fat. I have 97 locks. So for me to get a lock this fat, a twist this fat, I only needed 4 locks to do it. Some people, depending on the size of your locks, would need many more, but the same technique would apply. After a few minutes, I've decided to change course a little bit. Same style, but I'm just moving the parts differently. I wanted to create some straight lines instead of those groupings. I wasn't crazy about how that looked. So I'm just going to show you what I'm doing instead. Twisting, same exact technique. I'm just going with a different part pattern or a different series of parts. I just think that this looks a little bit neater, and even if I don't love it, I'm sticking to this once I do it. Now I'm down to the end with 3 pieces. One is really short. I am going to just bring the longer piece over, with the shorter piece, and I'm going to continue to twist. So now this lock is clearly longer than the rest. I could just leave it out straight and deal with it later. What I'm going to do is just fold it inside of the rubber band by not pulling it all the way through and leaving this little knot at the bottom. And then I feel like it looks a little bit neater. So now I'm going to continue over here doing a line like this, another line over here. Then I'll probably keep the groups. But same idea, I just decided to go with a different series of parts. Something that's important to mention as you do a style like this is that you don't want to run out and do all these twists and then end up with one lock sticking out. So as I do the back, I'm going to make sure that I start with locks. Let's see, how can I put this at a right angle? I'm going to make sure that I start with locks that are close to locks that are already twisted before, and I gather, just so I make sure I don't end up with one random lock. So I'm going to start with locks over here and collect them, and I'm double checking the entire time to make sure that I'm not leaving random locks. When I get to the last set, unless I've done the math in advance, I might end up putting 5 or 3 to make this work. But in the meantime, I want to make sure I'm getting all of the locks, so I'm going to begin to twist from the area that is closest to locks that are already twisted, instead of starting from this side and ending up with one lonely lock. For a few minutes at least, I'm going to show you the general process that I'm going to do. I'm going to take hair, like a twist, and then make loops like this. I'm going to try not to block your view as I look in the mirror to see what I'm doing. And create like a swirl and then pin it. I'm going to continue to make swirls all around my head until I'm satisfied with the overall look. So this is the semi-final look. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it. It looks very similar to the style I did a few days ago, which is not a bad thing. But I really kind of rushed the back because I do have to go. I'm going to go outside like this. If I make any updates and decide to do something different when I get back home, I'll show you. But for now, this is it. I might update it a little bit to create a little bit more shape and depth in the back by just overlapping a little bit more instead of making the loops. I kind of just feel like I want it bigger and not so flat against my head. But for now, this is where I am going out now, and I hope you like it. And you might see me in a few moments if this is not the final product. But I'll say this again. Okay, hope you like it. So I decided to change it. There are probably a million different ways that I can pin this up. I just wasn't satisfied with the back. And now when I look at the before and after, I can't tell which one I like more. I definitely like the back more of this one, but I liked the front of the previous one. But this is what it is. This was a very difficult style for me to have tried to film the entire thing because it was such a tedious process, and I didn't know what I was doing, as I don't with most of my styles. Let me see. There was just a lot of thought placed into every single swirl, and I was trying to create something that looks like a heart back here. I don't even know if you can see that. But yeah, it was a lot of work. I am definitely going to keep it for a few days before I take it down. But what I love about doing styles with twist is that there's a million different things that I can do with it. So when I do decide to pin it up again, I'll videotape that so you can see the next style, or I'll just take pictures of it. But it's because it's the same basic thing, and I'll just be playing around with where I pin it. But anyway, I really like this side in particular. I'm going to try to do something completely different next time because I've done a lot of side swoops lately, and I want to show you some different options. But it's kind of something I like. Anyway, I hope you like this style, and I'll see you next time.